Good evening, Britannia, and hello to the rest of the world. Welcome to 2CTV and the first live update of the day. Let's talk about what's happening in Northern Ireland and, of course, the effects of it in the Republic of Ireland. All the debates, all the division continues in the Western world in general. We have all the issues going around, obviously, the geopolitical issues that have affected the Western world with all the weak and feeble leaders. Hello to everybody in the live chat. Let's get on with the show. All right, seems like the Irish socialists from the Republic of Ireland, their influence continues obviously to provoke people in Northern Ireland in the United Kingdom, and this issue obviously comes back every few years, and we're going to talk about what we are hearing from Sinn Fein. Of course, Sinn Fein are getting ready to cause trouble again over the next few years with the latest update that we had from Northern Ireland. They finally got the administration sorted out. We have some sort of governance in Northern Ireland. That's good, right? But Sinn Fein are essentially in charge, and they also have their first female socialist in charge of Northern Ireland. So that means that they have decided to work alongside their sister party in the Republic of Ireland, Sinn Fein, to push for unification and a referendum to leave the United Kingdom. Of course, they've been going around for years saying, England, get out of Ireland. We have. Anyway, first let's start with Mary Lou McDonald. Okay. How do we start with this one? So, as the president of Sinn Fein, she's come out to say, it is my job and the job of people like me who believe in reunification to win hearts and minds, and to convince people of that opportunity. Part of which, by the way, will be really consolidating our relationship with Britain as our next door neighbour and good friend. Oh, that's good news, right? But they're going to say, well, we are good neighbours, Britain, but we're going to want part of your country, well, the United Kingdom, essentially. They're going to take a big chunk of the United Kingdom. I mean, at this point, where we are going to talk about, by the way, the latest numbers in terms of the stats, in terms of the opinion of the public in obviously Northern Ireland, and the demographic change. The demographic change in both the Republic of Ireland and in the United Kingdom, in Northern Ireland, is going to play a major factor. Just like what we say about any election, really, in the West, with more foreigners, but more voters who are born outside of our countries, they have a big impact on the results of future obviously referendums, general elections, local elections, and everything else. So bear that in mind, and we're going to talk about that properly in a second, and I'm going to come to live chat, get your reaction as well. Let's talk about Michelle O'Neill. So she's now in charge, Michelle. She's come out to say she's excited, saying for the first time ever, a nationalist socialist, but yeah, okay. A national socialist takes up the position of First Minister. Woo! They're all very excited. That such a day would ever come would have been unimaginable to my parents' and grandparents' generation. So this is a sort of vibe we got when the SNP first took power in Scotland, and they were also in a rush at the time, trying to push for an instant referendum. Of course, they didn't succeed. After a few years, eventually they did. In 2014, we had the referendum in Scotland. We got the result of it. The problem for the Sinn Féin side is the situation in Northern Ireland is much more complicated than Scotland. The historic divide that we have been facing, especially in Belfast, is not the same as the Unionists in Scotland against the SNP minions. The divide will be absolutely chaotic, and that's why, whether you like it or not, the agreement that they came up with in the 90s was basically the best of, well, both worlds, you could say. I mean, all the best case scenario out of all the chaotic options that you had on the table. And of course, over the last 100 years, the relationship that the United Kingdom has with the Republic has been okay, generally, as neighbours. But when it comes to Northern Ireland and the Republic, you got literally the chunk of the country who are so loyalist. They are so pro-United Kingdom. And then the other side are extremely socialist and Republican. But they're going to continue to push for this referendum, obviously. They got these plans now over the next few years to actually implement this referendum. But they're not really talking about how, again, there's a complication. You can't just leave. You have to read the Good Friday Agreement to know that you have to get the consent first. You have to have the will of the people before you ask the will of the people. They basically made it so complicated for you to not to be able to just randomly decide for the rest of the country. Now, Joe Biden. Oh yes, that's another beauty. Obviously, as you guys know, Joe Biden, every time he visits the UK or even the Republic of Ireland, he always brags about how Irish he is. It's always the same with the US Democrats, the liberal leaders in America. If they have any link to Ireland, they suddenly, when they leave America, when they go abroad, they become extremely Irish. Oh, I've always been Irish. Oh, yeah, I'm so Irish. Sure. Okay, I believe you, Joe. He's come out to say, as I said when I visited Belfast last year to mark the 25th anniversary of Belfast and Good Friday Agreement, the democratic institutions it established remain critical for the future of Northern Ireland and a government that finds ways through hard problems together will draw even greater opportunity to Northern Ireland, right? He did say that. I'm also very much impressed that he remembered that he'd visited Belfast last year, considering that recently he's been mistaking foreign leaders for other countries' dead foreign leaders. Absolutely chaotic situation we've had. He doesn't even know the difference in French politicians and German politicians anymore. But he remembered. It was definitely not written by his PR team and his advisors. It was definitely written by Joe Biden. Yes, he knows. Now, again, all the conversation goes back to Sinn Fein. Do Sinn Fein actually have support right now? Now, there is one thing to discuss the opinions of the public, specifically in Northern Ireland, but also the Republic in terms of reunification of Ireland, the referendum. But there's also one thing to discuss in terms of the support for Sinn Fein, who are, the people who are pushing for this. Well, it seems like they're not doing too well. Support for Sinn Fein drops to 3-year low in the latest poll again. So as they slumped the support in the latest Irish Times and Ipsos BNA opinion poll, with the party falling to its lowest level in 3 years. The results see Sinn Fein support fall to 28%, a 6-point drop since the most recent poll in September. They are doing as bad as the Conservative Party in England. It's so bad, but they believe that they have the consent of the people. You know this is not going to end well, by the way. The whole thing is about creating more division and creating more destruction and distraction at the same time, because there are bigger things in play. It's not really just about a couple of idiotic politicians from either side, really, to say whatever they want. It's not really about them. It's about those with the vested interests who would benefit either way. And all this divisive debate will really help, because the media will be talking about them for the next few years, and everybody will be assuming that, well, this is going to change everything. But in reality, the change is already coming, and the change is not good. Again, we are going to talk about the demographic change in both the Republic, but also specifically Northern Ireland, which is basically the UK at this point, considering that they are still part of the European Union. They're still part of the UK. But we don't really expect any of these people to actually come up with a proper plan. They are traitors. But they are also traitors to the people in the Republic of Ireland. Do not believe the propaganda that socialism is a solution in the Republic. The Irish people, there are many things, but they're not socialist. But these people try their best to push for more socialism, or national socialism as they call it. Now, this is quite interesting. I was having a look at the corporate media. Now, we got David Blevins, who's the Sky News' senior Ireland correspondent, actually saying this, that when it comes to the question of referendum, it's worth considering alongside the most recent polling, right? A decisive 64% of people in the Republic of Ireland are in favour of Irish unity. Now, it is a majority, right? And it's a pretty good majority. But you would expect that number to be much higher in the Republic of Ireland, but it's not. In Northern Ireland, it's not so clear-cut. Only 30% favour, 50% against and 20% undecided. 50% are against. Only 30% are in favour. And the numbers have always been consistent anyway, so you can't really just say a one-off opinion poll is a lie or whatever. It's a consistent trend of the opinion. But there are two factors, David says, key factors. The most recent Ipsos poll in the Irish Times last December suggests that the number of Unionists in Northern Ireland who say they would not be able to accept Irish unity has actually fallen from 32% to 23%. So this could be good news for Sinn Fein, right? This could be behind their push, essentially, their existing kind of exciting campaign that they have to push to implement this referendum. Again, they have to really consider the Good Friday Agreement. You can't just randomly leave the United Kingdom. It doesn't work that way. They have made it complicated for obvious reasons. Having said that, so there are some bad news for the Sinn Féin party, but there's also some good news, right? The other good news for Sinn Féin and the socialist side, which is bad news for British people, is also the demographic change. Just like what we've seen with mass migration and multiculturalism and all this nonsense, the political parties on the left and political leaders on the left have been pushing for more migration, and by pushing for more migration, the newcomers into the countries vote left-wing, right? They push them to say, hey, we brought you in here. The new Labour government did that. A lot of people who came since the 2000s, they said, well, Labour allowed us in, so we're going to vote Labour, right? Now, the same problem exists right now in Northern Ireland. The latest census, 2021, 13.5% of the population were born outside Northern Ireland. Of these, just over 2/5, so 40%, arrived to live in Northern Ireland in the decade to 2021, with just over 1/4, 25.8%, arriving between 2001 and 2010. In total, 1/3, that's 33%, arrived before 2001. That also means all these people are having a lot of babies soon. A lot of babies. Now, as we have been saying, the problem is that the Western liberal, more middle class white people, they are having fewer babies, but the migrants are having more babies. And this creates a big problem, not just in terms of left-wing parties winning elections, but also any sort of referendum that they push, right? Now, there's no point to panic right now for those who are unionists, who want Northern Ireland to remain in the United Kingdom, but you have to worry about the changes that are happening in both the Republic of Ireland and the United Kingdom and most of the Western European countries. Same problem that we're having everywhere. Let's go to you guys. Got the Irish Warrior saying Sinn Féin are for woke S. Yep, absolutely. John Mack is absolutely spot on to remind us this is divide and conquer again. Yeah, do not believe. I mean, don't fall for the propaganda. It's a very, very problematic situation. Robert Watson says, Sinn Féin have a hard-on for Islam. It is true. It is absolutely true, by the way. Ireland is pro-Palestine, so as a Jew, I stand with British. It's specifically the left-wing Irish people who are pro-Palestine. To clarify, there are still many sound, patriotic, and freedom fighters who believe in our civilization and our values in Ireland, and these are the people who have been pushing for governments in the Republic to relatively over the years not go fully socialist. You know, the tax rate for businesses have been attractive for a while. Obviously things are changing, but you could blame the governments right now. Stuart says we are being invaded in Northern Ireland, just less than the south or in England. Again, exactly, spot on. Do not forget about their size when it comes to Northern Ireland. It's very small. England itself is very small, but Northern Ireland is even smaller. So it doesn't really help in terms of harmony in society with mass migration. And of course, these people would be pushed to vote socialist. IRA were just socialists with guns, and now they will complete what they wanted. The destruction of Ireland completely. Exactly. By the way, do not believe the propaganda that Sinn Fein, or the former IRA lot, really care about Ireland and simply want the unity for Irish people to be Ireland. They simply want that to be the beginning, to obviously create destruction get rid of the United Kingdom part of it, and then they could then also, just like any other country that they did, whether it was Cuba, Soviet Union, all the other countries, North Korea, to then implement their own socialist dystopia. It's all part of the original plan, because these are the people who also continue to go to Davos, to go to all these the other globalist platforms. And these globalist platforms, including the World Economic Forum, for example, it was built, that's what they said, back in the 70s. It was built for Western capitalists, for people, businesses and politicians who believed in the Western side, the Western order, the liberal democracy and free market capitalism. But it was a lie, because the moment that those platforms were created and you brought in people like President Xi and of course the socialists from Ireland and all the other countries as well, and the corporatists, any of these so-called capitalist forums that you have, they're not capitalists, they're corporatists, and they are still basically aiming for the same thing from a different angle. So you've got Islamism as an ideology, because the problem with that is that for centuries it's been wanting to create a one world government under the umbrella of Islam. We've got the actual socialists and communists who want to do the same, one world government under their control, their ideology. Then you now have the new enemy, which is the corporatists. Maybe they're new in terms of the branding is new. And they have decided to combine both sides. They're bringing in the progressives, they're bringing in the socialists and communists, saying, hey, well, let me introduce you to the market economy. Then we can still look after people, safety net, or universal basic income. Yeah, all that's good. And they're also bringing in the Islamic side, because diversity is good, right? It's our strength. They're giving them platforms and power and opportunity. The vested interest. I'm not talking about random ordinary people, by the way. Stephen says, I am sure I heard that the UK is one of the most densely populated countries in the world, but our politicians say it's still not enough. But based on the areas that we have built, of course, the island is actually obviously small, but we have space. We only basically utilize 2% of the land, of the habitable land, but there is no appetite really to overpopulate all the other areas, because if you start building in certain green space, and I'm not just talking about the green belt or the national parks, all the other green areas as well, a lot of people will complain. So everyone's now been filled in small places, small places, and it's not just London, it's also all the other towns and cities, and that's the issue. So we don't really have the resources. We have the land, but we're not using it, because it's not just the countryside, the farmland and everything else. It's too complicated to stop building everywhere at the same time. And the issue that people have in all these small towns and villages and the countryside is that, well, they would say, even if I give consent, and we start building in all the countryside, right? Not all of it, or parts of it. They know they don't trust the government. They know the more you build, the more they're going to bring in more migrants into the country instead of actually helping people. That's why the Middle England don't trust the government when it comes to building more. Now, those who are going around saying, why is it the people in England don't want any buildings, any sort of development? It's because they don't trust the government. They believe that if they knew it was going to be built for British people, for their local people, for their nieces and nephews in the village, then fine. But that's not really what's going on, is it? And you've got corporations going to all these small towns and villages. They are destroying the small shops and corner shops and bringing all these big major chains and supermarkets. It's destroying the soul of those communities. And I'm in favor of progress and building things, but not really at this cost. This is the whole issue, by the way. Also, most of the land is linked to the government anyway. I mean, in London, we have so much actual empty land and properties that belong to the Transport for London, for example, TfL. So that's the Decon's problem. The European Union is trying to surround Britain with enemies. Exactly, slowly, surely. Again, the whole point of the Windsor framework and what was Theresa May's Brexit deal called? Backstop, all that nonsense. And you got obviously the Chequers deal, and then you got Boris Johnson's deal, and now you got Rishi Sunak's deal. We said at the beginning, when it was happening, the Brexit negotiations, This is just a start. Do not surrender yet, because they are going to use this slowly to push for what they actually wanted, to destroy us. That was the whole point. We've lost Northern Ireland to the European Union. They're still part of the EU, and nobody cares. No one cares about people in Northern Ireland, apparently. No one in the news is talking about them. We've covered it obviously many times on this channel, but nowhere else. I mean, politicians don't even know much about Northern Ireland. That's the issue. We literally had, who was it? Is it Karen Brady, the former Northern Ireland Secretary of State, Tory, a couple of years ago? She was literally the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. She went to Northern Ireland. It was her job. She made a speech saying, I'm very confused. I don't understand why there's so much division in Northern Ireland. Why can't we all just get along? Read history. How do these people get these jobs without knowing the basic modern history of Northern Ireland? It's embarrassing. Like, why is it that they don't like each other? This side and that side. Is it about religion? Oh my. Anyway. First, a super chat of the evening. Was it Queen Nick? Thank you very much. Saying, did you hear about the potential new Islamic party? Yes, we have reported on this on 2CTV, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure, if you are, as I've said before, if you ever wonder if 2CTV has reported anything, we have a search bar on the channel, on the YouTube channel, on the main homepage. If you search for Islamic party, whatever, it will come up. But let's see what it says. It's called the Islam Vote. Yeah, it's scrapped church and state, but it might be mosque and state at some point if we are not careful. Yes, this is the problem with when we went with more liberal society, secular society, which made society slightly weaker. And I'm not really advocating for some sort of authoritarian conservative society. I'm just, we still want a free society. But the problem is nobody created a foundation for it anymore over the last few decades. There's no real defender of the system, of our values, which means the more we became secular and liberal, and basically no more, church and state separate and all that, in practice, obviously, obviously in England, church and state are linked, but in practice they're not. The issue with that is that when you bring in more people from different countries with different values, all they see is a blank canvas. They say, well, this society is free, liberal and secular, so that means they don't have any strong connection to any religion or any values or any sort of authority. So we could basically just replace them. We could introduce them to our way of life. Here you go, this is Muhammad. That's the problem. And that's just one part of it. This is just an example when it comes to religion. It applies to everything else. You literally have, and it's not legal, but it's happening in small areas in England, Sharia courts. I mean, are you kidding me with this? You still have forced marriages because nobody says anything. Birdie Miller says Joe Biden and Barack Obama's democracy is less than a dog pile. From the cobalt minds of Congo, Africa, Ireland, Haiti, Europe, large parts of America. It's all a gimmick. Anyway. Kate says England will be much better off not having to support Northern Ireland and Scotland. Both are basket cases. The problem is you still have a huge chunk, the majority, in both Scotland and Northern Ireland who feel British, who are loyal to the country. The issue is when you accept the propaganda that a loud minority of people in charge, like the SNP or Sinn Fein, speak on behalf of everybody else. This is exactly what they want you to think. The BBC and Sky, they continue to show SNP mouthpieces, Sinn Fein mouthpieces, so that people in England, unfortunately, and it's not really their fault, just like Case, would assume, oh, it seems like everybody in Scotland, Northern Ireland hate us and they moan all the time, just let them go. In reality, the actual majority are not supporting the SNP or Sinn Fein. They are saying, well, no, listen to us. We want to be British. We are British. We are contributing. We are defending the Protestant Church. Well, Church of England. It's not really Church of England, obviously, but it's linked to Church of England. Church of England only linked in England. But it's a system that basically applies to all sides as well. But Protestants, essentially, against the Catholic tendencies. I know that debate is kind of over, but it's still there, whether you like it or not. It's not really the fact that Catholics are going to take over, but there's still that, obviously, political divide. Mary says that I'm an East Belfast Protestant. Go Protestants. My daughter is married to a Catholic from oh, wow. That's an interesting family. And he says no, no, no to United Ireland. See? When you get Catholics and Protestants getting united, you win. Anyway. Church of England's in England? Yes. Yes, dear, it is. Obviously, Church of England is just for England, but the system basically was replicated in all parts of the United Kingdom under different umbrellas. It was simply to prevent the rise of Catholicism again. Oh dear. Anyway, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. We're going to come back later on with more updates, and at 8 p.m, the members of the channel on Locals, the link is in the description, we're going to have our members Q&A. If you want to join us, feel free to become an active supporter on Locals, and then we'll see you guys in about an hour or half an hour with more updates. I think we're going to talk about the Labour Party. The Labour Party's chaotic by-election campaign. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.